Hello, Ian here from Dark Blaze Workshop. Welcome back to another video. In this one we're doing the colours of House Hufflepuff. Okay, so in this one we're doing the colours of Hufflepuff. We're going to be painting the scarf and the inside of the robes of Cedric Diggory. So let's get on with it. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers. Right, so what we've got is a base coat of Averland Sunset so far. The thing with, if you do like a grey primer, it's always worth doing a blast of white from above so that you get that natural shadow already. And then when you apply your base coat, you'll do one or two even coats. But then what I'll do then, in the lighter areas you can see here, is just an extra coat just in that area. So you build up the saturation of the color, or the intensity of the color, and you leave that bit in shadow because it's going to be naturally darker in there anyway from the priming, and so this bit is light, so you add another layer or two to this bit. Same again with that part of the scarf, and then that part in there, leaving this bit in shadow. So what you've got then is a good head start on creating some volume and contrast. So what I've got on my palette, I shall bring that across now, hang on. Okay, eagle-eyed among you might have noticed that I've swapped to a red grass studio palette. Just trying it out at the minute. Okay, so we've got Averland Sunset here. We've got some ivory there, or any off-white will do. Purple, that is, I think that's a Vallejo model colour purple. And this is Averland Sunset with a little bit of ivory added to it. This is Averland Sunset with a little bit of purple added to it. So that's the kind of tone that you're after. So I'm going to put another coat of the Averland Sunset on, and then we'll start highlighting it, and then we'll push the shadows, and then we'll see how it goes from there. All the highlights are going to be just adding more ivory to the original mix. Okay, so back with Cedric. Try and improve the lighting. There we go. Okay, so Averland Sunset first. So I'm just going to put another coat on, so I'll show you where it was applied after the initial couple of coats. So I'm just going to add it in here. You can see I'm staying away from that shadow area. I'm going to put a little bit down here. And the same on the reverse, if you go along the top, and along that bit there. Okay. So now we're ready for the first highlight. So I'll just put a little blob of ivory into the Averland Sunset. Not too much, just so you change the tone slightly, and you want it fairly thin. Almost a glazed consistency. got too much on my brush there. Get rid of some of that. What I'll do about 2 coats of this, so I'll just wait for it to dry and we'll put another one on. So now I'm ready for another coat. So I haven't added any more ivory to it yet. Just one thing, if it is too opaque, what you can do is just feather it off at the edge there with some water, so you get a blend. I'm not going to highlight down there because I think it's got enough down there now, so I'll just concentrate on this bit here and this bit. So I'll just add another. I'll feather that off on the underside. And we'll go for the so another coat. Remember, this is really thin paint. And I'm doing a small highlight each time. So well, the first one was up here somewhere. Then you go further down and down and down. Same up here. Excuse me. Something stuck in my throat. First highlight was there, so I'm working my way up, starting there now. And same here, I'm going to start, instead of starting there, I'm going to start here and work my way up. It doesn't really matter with this top curve because it's all going to be subjected to light anyway, so it's all going to be a highlight. And what we'll do with the next highlight is start about there and just move down. Just want to feather that bit off there. Same with this one, I'm not going to do the bottom part there, just going to do the top two. So yeah, that's dry. So now we can add some more ivory to the mix, just a tiny bit, and a little bit of water. Just to show you what kind of colour I'm coming up with. That's the original, and that's with adding the ivory to it, so they're getting quite light now. Whenever I add the ivory, I always add a little bit of water to it as well, just to make sure it's still thin, and just to give you an idea of how thin it is. There's not much in the way of pigment there. Considering that this is the paint on its own. So this is the mix with water. So apply it again. Again, starting a little bit further up the scarf. And all the way across the top. I'll put a little bit in there actually. Okay, a little bit more ivory. And a bit more water. But you don't want too much paint on your brush either. It's a good idea to dab it in a paper towel just to get rid of all the moisture. Just leave you with the pigment. I think the highlights are almost there now. You should see a nice difference now when we add the shadow in. Alright, so I'm going to move to the Averland Sunset with a bit of purple in it now. And it is, cast your mind back to, it's like a fleshy orangey colour, and just going to apply it to the shadow areas. Again, not too much on your brush. And it's a good idea to push it up into the shadow area. And if your brush comes down too low, you can always feather it off at the edge with some water and push it up into where you want it to go. So it's starting to get a nice bit of tone going now. What I'm going to do is add another highlight now, so straight to the highlight. So once you put that shadow in, your highlights appear quite lighter than they actually are. So we need to work on the contrast a little bit, more shadows. So add a little bit more purple to the mix, so we've got slightly darker now. And again, remember the water. Get rid of the excess. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. I think we can do one more. So slightly more purple in. I'll just show you the colour now on the palette. So this was the original area, but this is the area where I've been adding the purple to it, so you can see a slightly darker tone. It's not that much darker, but it does make a hell of a difference. So I'm just going to be applying that one now. Just to make sure it is thin enough. Get rid of the excess, and don't know whether it'll show up over this yellow, but that's just how you change the tone. It's very subtle. And I'm just going to go into the darkest part of the scarf, which is along this line. Luckily we've got a nice groove there. I'm going to run it back and forth so it collects. And up into the shadows again. Same principle with the highlights. When you're doing the shadows, you're going to start off about here and push it up into the fold, and when you get a darker tone for your shadows, start further up and push in up into the groove, so you get like a nice transition. So in theory then all the pigment is going to be in the deepest part of the fold if you push it in towards the fold. Next one is, I'm going to go pure purple, but I'm going to thin it down a lot, so it's more watered down than a glaze. Very, very thin. I mean very. Again, let me show you the palette. That's the original purple. That's with all the water added. Okay, so I'm just going to push the shadows now with purple on its own, but I've thinned it down to probably less than the glaze consistency, so it's very, very thin. And I'm just going to stipple. Just touch it gently. You don't want much on your brush at all. Just little dots in the shadow area. Got to be very careful with this because the purple builds up really quickly, and you don't really want a lot there. So I'm just going to put a little bit in the that fold there, and you're not going to really see it up in the air anyway, so I'll just leave that bit. So the highlights are looking a bit washed out, so how to combat that? Well, we get some Flash Gitz yellow, we make a glaze, and we'll get it sorted. Okay, so I've done one coat already. I'm going in with another one now. I'm going to keep this very, very thin because Flash Gitz yellow is quite an intense colour for a yellow. Yellow is the weakest colour, but there seems to be bucket loads of pigment in it. So add plenty of water and dip your brush in it. Wipe it all off on the paper towel so you've got hardly any on your brush, and work from the mid-tone up to the highlight area. And that should tone down the desaturated nature of the highlight and resaturate it with a nice yellowy colour, but you've still got the highlight. That looks pretty good, so we'll leave it at that. Next up is the stripes. So for the stripes we'll be using German grey. Luckily, looking at the box art, there's only about 4 stripes on the scarf, so I was very thankful for that. So we'll go on with the first one. Now, best way to explain this now is to just keep the tip of the brush in contact with the model rather than pressing down and getting a thicker band of paint. I'll just try and show you on a piece of paper. So I'm just going to use a tissue. So if I use the tip of the brush, I'll try and keep it at a slight angle so you can see. The tip of the brush is going to leave a thin line. If I press down on the brush too much, even just a little bit, you're going to get a thick line. So just keep the absolute tip of the brush in contact. So it's a nice thin line. Takes a bit of control and a bit of practice, but once you get that down, you'll be able to do these lines, well, I would say in your sleep, but it'll be a bit silly doing it in your sleep, wouldn't it? So when we get rid of the excess paint on your paper towel and line up your brush, do a couple of practice strokes so you know you're going to get a straight line, and then go for it. They don't have to be razor thin. We do need a bit of substance to it. So that's the first one. And we're going to go pretty close next to that with the second one. If you know you can press down a little more, you can get a wider line. Get a bit of yellow on that little spot there to sort that out, but that's the first one done. So remember, it's all about the point of the brush. You don't have to go down to a 5-0 or anything like that. I'm using a size 1 here. I know it's got an excellent point on it, so that's why I use it. let's go for the second one about here. It's going to be at a slightly different angle. I might get away with just three on the scarf. I'm going to keep them kind of an equal distance, so I'll put the other one about here. A little bit of tidying up needed, but you get the idea. So just to finish things off, I've got the Averland sunset with a little bit of purple in it. Remember the first couple of shadows that we did? Just using that for the ends of the scarf there, and I'll put a line in between the, it looks like tassels at the end. And the body of the scarf. So I think we're done. So hopefully you'll be able to pick that up. Remember, keep your paint nice and thin, and a point on your brush. You shouldn't go too far wrong. So that's it. I think we're done with the scarf and the inside of the robe, so we'll call that a wrap. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you need to ask me any questions, get in touch in the comments below. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. But for now, that's it from me. I actually got the other Cedric on hand here, exactly the same way. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next episode. Cheers.